and I will be your moderator today. I think I'm just gonna skip that. If you all wouldn't mind introducing yourselves and which one of these was your project, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Cool.
We'll start with you.
Okay. My name is Hayley Karl. I'm the director and producer of the Good Morning Cuomo series that played at the beginning.
Nice.
I'm Misha Calvert. I wrote and co-directed Alpha Beta.
I'm Geoff Tarson, and I wrote and produced a short tutorial.
I actually like to start with one of my own questions, and then maybe we can open it up.
Sure.
This question is for each of you. What kind of inspired you to find the story? What inspired you to write it or to be involved in it?
So my inspiration came from Wayne's World, actually, originally.
Interesting.
Yeah, at the kind of a pretty rough point in 2020, I work in the service industry, and there's that scene in Wayne's World 1, if everyone remembers it, where he's trying to get his girlfriend Cassandra in front of the big record producer, and so they're going to beam it directly into his limo, and that's what a bunch of us in the service industry were talking because it felt like Cuomo just knew no one in the restaurant industry, and it was like, if you just beam it into his office, like someone from the service industry talking to him directly. And so that's kind of where it came from. It was a show for an audience of one, which was Governor Cuomo, and just giving him an idea of what people were experiencing, how they were feeling, what was going on. So, yeah.
That's very cool.
So Alpha Beta, it's part of a portfolio of work that centers women. I mean, just straight up, that's like my thing, is talking about women and the female gaze, just because we've had the male gaze since the dawn of cinema. I find it very boring. So I try to tell stories about women, and I love sex workers. I love their stories. I think they're really underrepresented, and I actually find a lot of festivals are afraid of anything about sex workers. Like, even some of the top ones are like, we'll do anything except that's dirty or dangerous, or I don't know. But so I just like kind of going to places that maybe some people wouldn't. And so I know a lot of doms, and they're just some of the best people in the world. I mean, just the best, coolest, the funniest, and so ambitious. They're business owners, and so one of them had made that jump from sex work to the business world, and I just thought it was fantastic and would make a really cool TV show.
Very cool.
I feel like tutors are underrepresented. The inspiration in some ways is my wife, who's a tutor, and we met years ago tutoring at families' houses that had a ton of money and we didn't. And I always found that combination of working very closely with these students and seeing their home lives, and also the fact that teens tend to not necessarily have a great relationship with their parents at that point, so you sort of get a close view of that, and in some ways they trust you more than that. So that was one thing. And then my dad over the past few years had Alzheimer's, and so the kind of combination of somebody sort of failing to launch in their life and doing this thing that then I thought connected with them was my inspiration for it.
That's cool. That's really cool. I'd like to open it up if anybody has any questions. Yeah, go ahead.
Hayley, for Good Morning Cuomo, what made you decide to choose these three businesses?
So actually, initially, the Rogers Garden episode was the first one we shot, and they're still open. They're still doing phenomenally. Garnett was here earlier, but she was the first one that volunteered. I kind of put the word out that I was wanting to shoot the series, and she was mad as hell. And but she also was, at that time, there were rumors that, you know, if you spoke out, potentially the SLA might visit you a couple hours later, the health department. So yeah, it was, there were a lot of people that were really afraid to speak out at that point. But she was bold enough and brave enough to put her voice out there, and that allowed other people to speak as well. So that was the first one we shot. Someday Bar was not long after that. The Diamond, we had heard, I mean, a lot of places closed, and that one we were luckily able to catch David like the third to last day he was there and just get his story. So yeah, it was a combo of volunteers and just folks I knew in the industry as well that connected me to people and that I knew from working in it. So yeah, whoever was willing to speak, honestly. Yeah.
Any filmmakers in the audience? Here's your hand. Cool. What do you want to know about how anything? All the secrets. I shot mine during COVID. That was fucking hard.
Yeah. I was gonna ask this a question for all of you too. What was the biggest challenge you faced during the process?
COVID. I mean, it obviously affected everything, and actually we had a whole day of shooting that was canceled that we never really were able to recover from. So on one of the episodes. So I mean, and yet obviously you want to tell your story, and so at least that's I felt that was the hardest thing. I don't know. I feel.
I will say I think that's a huge deal because a lot of I mean we all were affected by it, but for people to still have the impetus to create and still have the means and the motivation to create something during COVID is a huge deal, and I applaud you all for doing that. It's huge. I'm just gonna check the time. Along the same lines about challenges, kind of maybe what is something that you learned, maybe that wasn't expected, something that maybe surprised you that you learned from either the process or from pre-production or post-production or during production, that maybe you are going to apply to your next project, or maybe that ties into advice to other filmmakers. Sorry, kind of a loaded question. Something to think about.
I learned so much. I learned a lot every time. But so this was a project for me that I came originally from theater as an actor for decades, and then was like, oh, there's no money in theater. Why am I doing this? So let me learn film and TV, and then went from acting to writing and directing, and now that's my focus is writing and directing for film and TV. And yet, as a writer, a lot of the my DNA had been theatrical writing, which is very different from writing for the screen, and also just in my very snobbish way, I just kind of didn't care about camera, and for years I was like, well, if the writing's good and the acting is good, like I'll just let the DP like do their thing, and like that was just such bullshit. It was just pretension and laziness. So Alpha Beta, like, I mean, Barton is very good. We're nominated for Best Cinematography. But I didn't really engage so much in the cinematography, and even for a pilot, like, and that's just not good enough. There's too many people making things now. It's too accessible to make content to not give a shit about every single, you know, if you're gonna make something now, it's so competitive, you just really have to be the best. So for any indie creators in the audience. So this was the last project where I like kind of didn't engage so much with camera, and because it didn't have the premiere that I wanted, it's done well on the smaller festivals, like this wonderful festival here, but I was like, oh, you need to be better, you need to do better. And then the next thing I made, it took like 2 years, it was a hiatus of Come to Jesus, and then the next thing I made is like, I think it's like Oscar worthy. So we're finishing that now. It's with Ray and Sawyer Spielberg of the family, yes, and they star in it, and I got them on because of the vision So I guess like a takeaway is if something sucks, learn whatever it's teaching you, because the next thing will truly could be great.
Are you each working on anything else? Speaking of that, is there a way that people can, or what's the best way people can look you up or look up the other things you might be working on, or if not, how to learn more about your project now? Because I realize a lot of these are episodic. So some, I guess, had 2 episodes. Some are just pilots. But kind of what is happening next, and how can people follow you?
So Good Morning Cuomo, given the title, was pretty specific.
And look at it now.
Yeah, I know. We got him on Office.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Hope he saw it. I really do.
Yeah. I do too. I feel like he probably did, but I think his handlers probably kept him from it. But I am I seem to get more towards documentary work, and I'm working on a documentary right now about 3 brothers. They're my brothers that have an engineering aerospace company in Wisconsin. So it's about their kind of journey and where they're at, where they're headed, and it's in the very early stages. You can't tell, but yeah. So that's what I'm working on. Cool.
I'm finishing the short I just mentioned, and I've got 3 features in various stages. One of them's in packaging, and now that these strikes are over, we're gonna see what we can do. And if you want to connect, I'm on Instagram, Misha Calvert. I would love to connect with each and every one of you, so feel free to look me up.
I'm still working on the series. Hopefully, we will make more. I'm on Instagram as well for a short tutorial, and I teach. So I have a background in writing for television, so I've loved the whole web series concept and building shorter stories, shorter lengths. So I hope to do it again, but I don't have 3 features coming up, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm anxious to connect, and I will just throw this out as well, which is that I'm teaching a class next term which is called Writing the Web Series. So I'm hoping to connect with other web series creators to talk about their experiences at Hofstra University. So reach out.
Yeah, that's very cool. Any other questions or inquiries? Well, thank you all for coming and thank you all for sharing.
Thank you.